Wow. 0-0 in 90 minutes. 0-0 at the end of extra time. And then a dramatic, an amazing penalty shootout where Diogo Costa doesn't just put in maybe the best goalkeeping performance in a penalty shootout, saving I've ever seen. 3 on the bounce. Ronaldo, Bruno, and Bernardo Silva step up under pressure against a brilliant All Black to put Portugal into the quarterfinals. But that penalty shootout, in my opinion, is the mere tip of the iceberg when it comes to that game. And there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to unpack. And I'm going to prep you all right now. If you're here for basic analysis, leave. Because there's some really tough questions that we've got to ask. And some of you are going to think it's loaded, but it isn't. And I'll tell you as to why. But that game, it had it all. Okay? It had it all. Barring goals. But, you know, I said to you guys before, and maybe this is the game that you'll all agree with me on. Sometimes there are certain 0-0s that are some of my favorite games. Slovenia. I want to start with Slovenia because I felt they played impeccably well. I felt they defended resolutely. They were very difficult to break down. For 120 minutes, they didn't give Portugal any peace. And in the right territories of the pitch, they closed down the space. They counter-attacked well. We have seen Slovakia and we have seen Slovenia at this tournament. Not the highest ranked teams in the world, but both coming into the tournament in a really good run of unbeaten form and really put pressure on the major nations, made it very, very difficult for them to score goals, made it very, very difficult for them to express themselves. And I think they can leave with their heads held very, very high indeed. So I wanted to praise their performance tonight. They obviously didn't get the victory. They were actually awful on the penalties. I don't so much feel sorry for them because you got to take your penalties. They did harder things tonight than take penalties, and they did very, very well. You then look at Portugal, and I felt they probably started with the right team, and they created openings. But the longer the game went on, the more desperate they got as a team. Now, I saw a lot of people online, the pitch is bad. And yes, the pitch was awful. That doesn't help a team like Portugal. But at the end of the day, you've got to adapt. At the end of the day, you've got to learn to get on with that. I thought in the first half, they created ample amount of opportunities to either get attempts on goal or score. Just slightly overhitting passes. They weren't quite at it, Portugal. But you felt, you know what? If they keep their composure, they can go up another level. But it was Slovenia that went up another level in terms of their approach. And then as the game went on, Roberto Martinez made, for me, an awful mistake. He took off Vitinha, who I thought was Portugal's best player. And Bruno, who was not having a good game by any stretch of the imagination, I understand why you leave him on. There's always a chance of penalties, and he is a player that can be decisive for you. However, what you don't do is put Bruno Fernandes into a deep-lying midfield position and then essentially have 2, maybe 3 defenders behind him and everybody else in almost a line, a slight curvature of a line up front, and you just leave him with almost no options to pass to. That is not where you play Bruno and get the best out of him. That there was an absolute mistake. I don't blame Bruno for it. Why would you put him in that position? It's crazy. It really was a crazy decision for me. I thought his subs were poor. I think he left certain players on the pitch too long, like Rafael Leao as an example. I felt as though Ronaldo needed help sooner, and I know he turned to Jota, but I feel like Ramos needed to come onto that football pitch and play, unless he was injured or something. I don't actually know. I assume he was on the bench and didn't come on, so unless I've got that wrong, I'll take that back. But the Portuguese became desperate. The Portuguese became flustered, and you started to see Ronaldo, even in the first half, get annoyed that he hadn't scored yet, taking free kicks and shooting when he shouldn't have done. The team was maybe trying to service him a little bit too much as opposed to playing as a unit. And we saw them, especially in their game against Turkey, play as a unit. And they haven't done that in the last 2 matches. And you could put the first one down to the third game of the group stages, or the first one of the two poor games on the bounce, down to rotation and change. But for me, this team has got to keep its head. This team has got to stop trying to make Cristiano Ronaldo the hero. He's already the hero of Portugal and their greatest ever football player. Play as a team. There are times when they're passing when they should be shooting. There are times where they're crossing the ball early when they should be building up the play more. There are also times that they should be crossing and they don't. And it almost feels as though, Ronaldo's not in the right place. Somebody else is, but I'm going to wait for Ronaldo to get there. And I'm not actually, that's not on Ronaldo. That is on his teammates. They've got to be stronger in that regard, and so is the manager. And of course, on Cristiano, in terms of the positives for I'm going to get to Costa in a minute. I thought Cancelo had a really good game today, as an example. We don't have, look, Vitinha coming off was mad. I thought he played very well. I did feel for Pepe right towards the end because I thought we had another very good game. And Sesko run him ragged, was physical with him all game. I felt that he played well. But again, the manager left him on the pitch too long, Pepe. He should have been taken off 20 minutes, 30 minutes earlier than he was. And his 41-year-old exhausted legs nearly gave an opportunity away. And I will say this now. I'm someone who rates the talent that Benjamin Sesko has. And I'm not going to change my mind because of one bad game in the Euros. I thought he's a pro player. His general play was okay. He was very physical. But he had 2 really good opportunities tonight, and he absolutely bottled them. Now, for me, one game is not going to change my overarching opinion. For anybody that didn't rate him, they'll say, see, that's the game I told you about. There we go. But it was nothing to do with his inability to finish that cost Benjamin Sesko. It was all to do with his noggin. It was all to do with his head. He bottled it. He panicked. He saw the headlines and it overawed him. And that is maybe why, when we judge players, often we're judging them on what we see at the club they're at. We're judging the ability that we see. I haven't seen Benjamin Sesko in a game as high profile and as pressured as this. He just hasn't been in one. There's no league game for Leipzig that's as pressured as this, where the media attention is this high. And I think we saw tonight that mentally he's not ready yet. And I know someone will say, Terry, but there are 16-year-olds that are performing and delivering. Well, great. That's an exception to the rule. Sesko is still a work in progress. I still think there's a quality player in there, but poor tonight. On Cristiano Ronaldo, it was a poor night for him. There is no doubt about it whatsoever. A poor night. He had the opportunity to be the hero from the penalty spot. It wasn't even the worst penalty I've seen hit. This man has scored his last 26 penalties he's taken. But an interesting stat, it's the 3rd time out of 9 that he has missed a penalty at a major tournament. I wouldn't have let him take that penalty. And I wouldn't have let him take that penalty because he was trying too hard to score. And we spoke about this on a show recently, and I forget which show it was because I do so many bloody shows that I don't always remember which one, whether it was a match reaction, top 6 show, straight fact show. But I spoke about trying too hard. And again, there are some silly people who don't believe you can try too hard. And I disagree, especially when it comes to sport. I remember listening to the great Michael Johnson speak about, I don't remember her name now. She was an American sprinter. I want to say Marion Jones might have been her name. She was brilliant at one Olympics or one World Championships. And a few years later, she was struggling a little. And he broke down in super slow-mo her sprint and was showing how, and his words were to the effect, she's trying so hard. He said, you can see in that attempt to try so hard, her form is off. And it was like her left arm was coming out too wide and her right leg, the foot was bending out to the side. And he was essentially stating that 100-meter sprinting, those little details are the difference between you coming first sometimes and coming 5th. But his view was she's had some injuries, she's lost some sponsors, she's had some controversy, she's trying so hard to win, she's messing her form up. Now, I believe football players can do that. I need to score. I've got to do this. I haven't scored yet. I've got to deliver. I need to be the person that wins it for my country. I want to do it for my country. And suddenly, you're a bit too tense when you're hitting the ball. You're not timing your jump right. You're misjudging the speed or the flight of the ball. This is what happens when you try too hard, when you overthink. And that is what Cristiano Ronaldo got fundamentally wrong tonight. He wanted it almost too much, and he's very rarely done this in his career. It's why he's so successful. But he essentially turned around, and he essentially had a game which has been rare, a match that's been very rare in his entire game, in his entire career, where he was overthinking, where he didn't stay cool, calm, and collected, where he allowed the occasion and the moment to overawe him. And that is why I wouldn't have let him take the penalty. That penalty should have gone to Bruno Fernandes, who listen, what Bruno Fernandes did to Oblak in the shootout is what he done. Now, where I want to credit Cristiano Ronaldo, where I really want to credit him, is that he had the courage and he had the bravery and he had the peace of mind. And maybe missing that penalty helped him. Maybe if he'd have got a penalty in the first 10 minutes and missed, he'd have relaxed for the rest of the game and had a better moment. He scored the first goal of the penalty shootout just after Slovenia missed. Now, if Ronaldo comes up, misses again, we could be having a very different conversation here now about who's in the quarterfinals. So you have to credit him for that. And when it comes to the most positive person to speak about, look, what we saw from Diogo Costa was class. Forget the penalties for a moment. The save against Sesko, absolutely brilliant. He made it hard for him. He made him sort of panic a little bit in the way in which he came out. And I am going to say Benjamin Sesko should have scored. If he puts a bit more bend, a bit more height on there's nothing the goalkeeper can do. But you've got to credit a very, very, very good save. And Oblak was getting all the plaudits for his save. I think Costa's was harder. And then what he did in that penalty shootout was sensational. Absolutely sensational. Absolutely out of this world. I don't remember at a major tournament somebody doing that. Saving 3 on the bounce, the opening 3. I don't remember a team winning a penalty shootout with their first 3 kicks, genuinely. And of course it's happened. It can't be the first time. But I would love to see the statisticians talk about the Euros, because I've never seen anything like that in my life. It was phenomenal. So congratulations to Costa. He saved his nation tonight by saving those penalties, saving that moment from Sesko. I want to say commiserations to Slovenia that played hard, played brave. And there's a question I'm going to throw out to you all, and there's a question I'm going to have a conversation with Husam about in a moment. And that is, and I'm going to have to premise this. No, I'm not going to premise it. I'm just going to say it. And if the silly people at back want to question it, they can. Have we been maybe a little bit too disrespectful to some of the other big nations in this tournament who have struggled to score against the Slovakias and the Slovenias and the like? Are we almost looking at it and saying, well, the performances are just bad, as opposed to, well, these teams are consistently making top sides struggle to be able to break them down, struggle to be able to beat them? Are we actually paying too much attention to the so-called superior team not scoring and ignoring the quality of play from the smaller nation? Because it hasn't been a one-off game. There's been multiple in this tournament. I'd love to get your views and get your opinions on that. A few super chats before Sam comes out. It says Portugal as a whole was terrible tonight. Credit to Slovenia. We say it was sad to see Ronaldo like that, but credit to him for stepping up and scoring that first pen. Yeah, I agree. Look, if you don't like Man United or Real Madrid, there's a likelihood that you love seeing what happened to Ronaldo tonight, because that's the way the cookie crumbles. I was gutted to see him. I didn't like seeing him cry like that. And it's, some will say it's all me, and he's a selfish person. I actually disagree. I think he takes so much pride in trying to deliver for his nation. And you saw the way he apologized to the fans when he scored his penalty, and the way he went over and apologized again after they won the game. It's about his country. This is a patriotic man. And yes, he cried. Yes, he was upset. But I kind of like seeing that emotion from him, if I'm being honest. Maybe not at that time. You maybe want to save that. But I like that. Oblak just fluked the penalty save. He faced Ronaldo so many times today. Was his lucky day. If you notice, Oblak got nowhere near the other penalties. Look, he played brilliantly in the game. He didn't have a good penalty shootout. But what started to happen is his teammates let him down. So I think, especially after, I mean, Bruno's penalty done him. And when they missed their first 3 penalties, I didn't expect him to save Bernardo Silva's, because the pressure then mounts up. It's a different scenario. When he saved Ronaldo's, it wasn't, if this goes in, the game is over. There was still an opportunity. It changes things. So I don't think he fluked it. He had a very good game. Why does Martinez look like Lex Luthor? I'm not too sure. Maradon here says, bad example, she was doping. Well, that makes it an even better example, doesn't it? Because if she was doping, that should have made her faster than everybody else on the track. But because she was trying so hard, and by the way, a lot of people end up doping because they're trying too hard and they're so desperate to win, it becomes an obsession. Her form was off. I don't think you know more than Michael Johnson. I'm going to be honest with you. And this can happen in most sports. And unless you played sport, even at a national level, but if you've been anywhere international sports, you're in a very small group of people around the world, you'll understand what trying too hard means. Did anyone see Ronaldo today acting really strange? Surely I'm not the only one thinking taking something because he looked drugged up. No, I don't think he looked drugged up. Again, do you know how often someone like Ronaldo gets piss tested? It's ridiculous because of who he is and how long he's been doing it. What I think we saw from Ronaldo today was someone who hasn't scored at the Euros yet, feeling the pressure because I think he knows. And one of the reasons why I think Costa should get a statue in his country is because imagine the last time we see Pepe was that mistake. That would not have been a dignified way for his career to end. I think what Ronaldo has done, he wants to deliver. But I think he's allowed the occasion. Every single one of these last knockout games could be Ronaldo's last. And I think he's allowed the emotions to get to him. That's what you saw, was an emotional person, not somebody that was drugged up, in my opinion. Martinez might be worse than Southgate. Listen, a lot of people said that in the build-up. I think UEFA will take a look into that because of how he was acting strange in the tunnel. I'm sure he took something. Never seen him like that. I just don't listen. If it turns out to be true, then it turns out to be true, and I'll apologize to you, my friend, and say I got it wrong. But I didn't feel he looked like he was taking something. We've also what Maradona looked like when he was taking something, and that's not how Ronaldo looks, in my opinion. But there we go. Husam is coming on the show with me now, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure if you haven't done so yet, you hit the like button. Please make sure you are subscribing to the Football Terrace as well. Husam, welcome back to the show. A 0-0.
There's a lot to unpack, to be fair. Everything.
I mean, it was a 0-0, but it almost felt like a very entertaining one.
In extra time, yes. I think the last half an hour, they repaid us back for the first 90 minutes of the game, because the last half an hour was way more entertaining than the whole game. First of all, I want to send a message to all the Arsenal fans watching this. I know the Arsenal fans are a massive part of the Football Terrace community. I just want you guys all to pray after the stream. I want you all to thank God that Benjamin Sesko decided to renew his contract and not join Arsenal Football Club. Because when you have, one of the reasons that I rate Steven Gerrard so highly, and I think many people rate Steven Gerrard so highly, is genuinely clutch moments. Steven Gerrard would not be looked at as the same person at all without clutch moments. Sesko, the whole of Slovenia is watching. The whole of the world is watching. We need you to deliver. He looks straight at the keeper and shoots it right at him. You guys dodged the bullet. You should thank God that he decided to renew his contract. Now, I think, first of all, I want to respond to kind of what Jamie said earlier on in the super chat when he was talking about Oblak. I defended Alisson and I'll defend again. I will never, ever blame a penalty shootout on a goalkeeper ever. Even if a goalkeeper doesn't save a single penalty, I'll never blame him for it. Ever. Because I feel like blaming a goalkeeper for a penalty shootout is weak. You should blame the players who missed for Slovenia. That's the bigger problem. That's the bigger worry there. The fact that the players miss all those chances from the penalty spot. And it's definitely happened before, but I don't remember when it's happened either. If someone can remind us in the chat, that would be great. I've never remembered. I don't really remember the last time someone's missed like 3 in a row, where a penalty shootout was over after the first 3 kicks.
Mate,
basically.
I agree.
I actually don't remember. I genuinely don't remember. So look, today I think Portugal didn't leave a scary impersonation or a scary message for the French coming up against them. And here's the thing, the French haven't left a scary impersonation either. And I think maybe we are, like, disrespect is a strong word, but I feel like today, if Portugal really played at a high level, they could have won the game in normal time. They could have won the game in normal time. And I think Roberto Martinez needs to realize something. Bernardo Silva on the right with Ronaldo as your striker just does not work. I'm sorry, just does not work. He needs to figure out a formula. I think Terry said it from the first game, and I agreed with him, and I've stuck with it ever since. Ronaldo does not press. Ronaldo doesn't do all the hard yards anymore. He needs pace and power around him. It helps it. And you can see that when Jota came on. I'm not saying that because he's a Liverpool player, but it's a fact. He got the ball, dribble 1-2 times, run around, and you saw Jota's work rate in terms of he does all the defensive work for you. Ronaldo, I don't need you to do any defensive work. Obviously, he missed the penalty. It was a fantastic save by Oblak, to be fair. But at the end of the day, they went through, so no one will talk about it now for the end of time. I think teams just need to take a bit more risks. And I'm so sorry that I keep repeating this, but it's fucking true. Because every time Slovenia attacked, it's almost like they created the chance directly. And every time Portugal attacked, it's almost like they created the chance directly. I understand why they're a little bit reserved. It's you lose, you go home type of scenario. But today's games, and when I say games, I mentioned France in this as well, proves that really no one is beatable. Same way Germany, Switzerland proved that no one is beatable. Same way, you know, the Spain game, I believe it was against Albania or Italy that ended 1-0 or 2-1. That just shows that it's just not really a sign that everyone is you know, strong as hell and all that shit. I think Slovenia today, massive credit to Biol at the back. Fantastic center back performance from him. He was incredible. But they could have, and to be fair, should have won the game if Sesko had scored that. But for me, listen, I look at Portugal, and on paper they're really dangerous, but they need to make changes in order to allow Portugal to actually cook. I'm not saying drop Bernardo. Bernardo needs to start. I told Terry something game one. Go watch, after the stream, go watch back the match reaction for the Portugal game. I said Palhin has the key to unlocking everyone. Palhin has there. So just play Bernardo next to Bruno in midfield. Yeah. That's the thing I just don't get. And play someone who's strong and fast on the right. That's it.
I agree. And you didn't come on the match. You didn't come onto the match reaction after the Turkey game, and we spoke about that and how it improved things. And you know, everybody is beatable at this tournament. It's really interesting as well because you even look at Spain, right? Spain's first game was against Croatia, who open up an attack. Their second game was against Italy, who don't, and they won just 1-0 own goal. Their next game was against Albania, a team that sit back and absorb. They won 1-0. They then played Georgia, that they do try and counter, but when they counter, they're attacking numbers and they leave space in behind, and they end up smashing them in the end. I would still listen, they're out now, so we're never going to know. But I think the Slovenias and the Slovakias of this world would do what they've done to Portugal and England and Belgium and a few others. I think they would do that to most teams at the Euros because they're big, they're quick, they're strong. I mean, Slovenia were playing 4-4-2 today. I don't know how that would work if a team was more attacking in the modern day game. But from a defensive point of view, it made it so hard for Portugal to break them down, and they deserve so much credit, and that element, you know, I need to praise them for. But yeah, you are right, Bernardo Silva out there, it just doesn't work. And the problem is in games, and if you have never played football, you won't understand it. Maybe when you're in the football match, this is the thing, and this is an anecdote. It's anecdotal, but it's been said by so many professional football players, and you hear this from the pundits, as in the ex-pros all the time. That whenever you're the underdogs, there's always this get through the first 20 minutes. And there's a reason that when you train for the first 20 minutes versus the rest of the game. There's a reason that it's so important the coaching staff drum it into you. Because you get through the opening 20 minutes and most teams' intensity will drop off slightly. Because you can't play at that opening 20-minute intensity for 50, 60, 70 minutes because then you fall off at the end. And you have to get through that period. And that 20 minutes then becomes 30, then becomes 50, then it's 70. The team that's meant to be trying to beat you, that can get into their heads. It becomes harder to beat them and harder to break them down. And they've done that so well. But what you need to mitigate that is some more speed. I also thought, I said it in my opening speech, Bruno did not have a good game tonight, won't defend it. I thought it was poor up until his penalty, essentially. But why are you dropping him deep and then having no one else around him? You saw those clips where, like, literally there was 2 or 3 centre-backs behind him, or people in centre-back positions, not actual centre-backs. And then you had all the attackers up top, and there was a goal for space. And I'm sitting there and thinking to myself, listen, I love and respect Bruno Fernandes. But if someone said to me, you keep him at Man United to play that position or you sell him tomorrow, I'd sell him. I'd drive him to the new club if that's where we're going to play him, because he isn't any good at it. That isn't where he thrives. So that element to me, I just found hugely frustrating, because, you know, they played into their opponent's hands. I want to go to a super chat, then I'm going to go to Igal. He says, very harsh on Sesko. That's slightly reactionary. He could have done better in that moment, but it was a great save from a great keeper proved by the penalties.
This is completely wrong. This is completely 100% wrong. He shot it straight at the keeper. That's not a great save. Yes, Diego Costa is a very good keeper. Yes, he was even linked to a move to Man United when the whole him and Onana thing was happening, and they ended up going with Onana. So obviously he's been linked to moves even to big clubs as well. But at the end of the day, respectfully, Sesko shot it right at him. If Diego Costa made a world-class save like he did in those penalties, I would have said it. Well, you think I'm shy? Or you think any of us here are shy to say that? The guy shot it straight at the keeper. That was not a good save at all. You know, like, you know how sometimes in one-on-ones, even Igal and Terry will admit this, even as rival fans, in saving one-on-ones, Alisson is the best in the world. And sometimes he saves ones where it's like, how the fuck did he save that type? I don't think I'm looking at Costa and going like, how did he save that Sesko shot? Sesko shot it right at him, bro. That's the thing. Like, that's what I think. That's the difference for me.
He probably had time to go around him also. And
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken, wasn't there a situation earlier in the game he could have also scored? So it's not the only chance.
Yeah, he scuffed it with his left foot. Do you know what I will say is this? I do think where I will agree slightly with that super chat is there is a reactionary element to it. And I'm not saying yours, Sam. I'm talking in general. There are people that said I don't rate Benjamin Sesko. Now, what they didn't say in their breakdown is, trust me, he'll look good. He'll score goals when the pressure's off. He'll do well against these teams. But when it really comes to it, he'll bottle the big moments. I've not heard anybody's analysis of him say that. And that's what we saw today, because I thought his hold-up play was good at times. I thought he bullied for large parts someone like Pepe, which I thought was great. He got himself into the scoring positions. But when he was there, his head wasn't right. And that element, in my humble opinion, unless you are a professional scout and you've watched him hundreds of times and studied his game, no one has predicted that. No one, by the way, said he was going to be good at that. No one said he was going to be bad at it. This is the thing when you look at a young player that's got talent, you can sit there and say, I think he's a talent and I would like my club to sign him because I can see him doing X, Y, and Z. But in the reality, again, it's just an opinion. Until they're in those high-pressure games, in those high-pressure moments, nobody knows. And do you know how we know this? How many times have we seen people get signed and people say, why you bought him for? Look what happened when Liverpool signed Mo Salah. What? Why you buying a Chelsea flop? Why would you buy him? And then look what he's gone on to do for your football club. So that's where I'll defend Sesko, is what went wrong for him tonight has not been what people prior to this said they didn't like about him. So it's not that you're right. It's just that it fits your agenda tonight that he missed those chances. Because I don't think it was a lack of quality. I believe it was a lack of mentality in those moments. Because I think if he's running through in the first game of the season, Leipzig versus who's an average German team? Down near the bottom.
Champions League side now.
Who?
Yeah, you could say Union Berlin finished 17th.
Union Berlin. If that happens opening day of the season against Union Berlin, he buries it. Watch. And you'll go, oh, look at that finish. Different level of pressure.
That proves actually that Arsenal shouldn't have signed him, because he's not Arsenal level talent then.
That is where I agree with your opinion. So I now think, seeing that, again, I don't think one game is a big enough sample size. But
of course,
you look at that and go, what I said is the same as you, but in reverse. I think he's done the best thing for his career by staying at Leipzig for at least another season. And he should learn, again, and this is what's great. he'll either get better from those misses today or he won't. It will affect him forever and he'll never reach those levels. But your point remains the same. It's probably a good thing Arsenal didn't sign him now. But
you want to know something? If
if he scores that goal, everyone's saying, Arsenal, you messed up. And that's true. Again, that's why I say I don't think one game is a big enough sample size. I agree.
Also, we shouldn't be judging players on international performances solely, because in that case, Lewandowski would not be rated as one of the best strikers because sometimes he doesn't show up for Poland. It's a lot tougher when you play for a smaller country. Now, I just want to speak about this. Portugal today, France today. After those two performances, where teams that are really good, one of the better teams in the tournament, one of the more hyped up teams with a lot of talent. Terry, you must feel a lot better about England now, seeing how other teams are also having mixed performances, not living up to expectations offensively. And to wrap up the whole point, I think you need to stop looking at the cup tournament the same way you look at your clubs, because that's what a lot of fans are doing. When I speak to them about England, I'm hearing a lot of rhetoric that I hear about their club performances seeping into their international review of their own country. And maybe you need to take a step back, look at it and say, you know what, I've gotten through. Yes, we didn't scrape it to penalties, but we scored 2 goals late and we shouldn't get to that point. We should play better. But this is maybe what you need to do in international tournaments. Just get by. And I reminded some guys earlier today, Portugal did this in 2016. Round of 16, penalties. Quarterfinals, penalties. Semifinals, close win. Final, 1-0. And you know what? They didn't win a single game in the group stages. All 3 draws. So when you're looking at England, understand it's not as bad as you always think it is. You just need to get to the next game, and things can be completely different.
No, but it's about the bigger signs, Igal, for England. It's about bigger signs. That's what worries me. What worries me is the time. Okay, today, Roberto Martinez. I don't think any of us here are going to sing his praises, but at least he made his substitutions quick. That guy gave Ivan Toney 60 seconds, my brother. That's the thing I have a problem with. I think Southgate's lack of cojones, if you would like, is probably one of the things that might cost England. I don't think Roberto Martinez has a lack of cojones. I think he's just getting the chemistry of the players wrong, and I think that's his biggest issue. But when I look at Southgate, the problem is bigger than you think, Igal, because it's the signs that are being shown. Like Slovakia had chances as well. They stopped attacking for some reason after they scored, but they had chances that if I give to an Mbappe or I give to someone who's better, he buries them. That's the difference as well. So
what I'll say is this though, right? I get your point. I think this is a conversation to be had, because I don't think there is and this happens so much in the football discourse amongst fans nowadays, where it's almost people just want a one-size-fits-all approach. And I don't think it's as simple as that. I was sitting there watching the game, and exactly what you've said, Igal, was going through my mind. Not as I completely think, oh yeah, we've been too harsh on England. There is loads of correct criticism for us. But we have Slovenia, I think we're 8 or 9 games unbeaten coming into this. Slovakia, I think, is like 1 defeat in 18. And when you read up about their nations and you read what's being said about them and how they've performed, they've been stinking out games, if you want to use that language, playing that fossil football, as social media people like to call it, which I find quite funny. And they've been making it hard for people to break them down, score, and beat them. But this is the problem. Sometimes we become very sort of shoeboxed and we're only focusing on our own things as opposed to the wider picture. So do I think England could improve? Yes. For instance, Kyle Walker's poor positioning had nothing to do with Slovakia, in my view. That was him. However, 2 or 3 of the teams we've played are renowned for making it hard to be broken down. Yet we're angry that we're finding it hard to break them down. So I do agree that there's an element here of balance that's needed. But what you said that's spot on, though, about because people were talking about France earlier, and that's a really poor game for them. I said, yes, but if they go through the next round, go on to win it, no one's going to remember that game. No one is going to remember that they've scored no open play goals in this tournament up to the quarterfinals. They win 2-0, 2-0, 1-0 in the final. All that's going to be remembered is they were champions of Europe. And that's the great thing about tournament football. You do forget. You end up forgetting. When England got all the way to the final of the last Euros, nobody on the morning of that final was thinking, you remember that crappy 0-0 draw we had with Scotland? Nobody was thinking about it, because it becomes almost irrelevant at that point. That is where I completely agree with you. We have a super chat here that we need to address that says, right, so Vinny Jr. wouldn't score that goal. Age doesn't matter. These people are dumb. Messi and Ronaldo were doing it younger than 21. So again, it's interesting when you talk about, I don't understand what the word excuses means anymore. Earlier on today, somebody said England are crap, overrated players and crap. They then told me there's no excuse for us to not be in the final, though, which doesn't make sense. Because the excuse would be we're crap, right? According to that same logic. The problem you have here, Nav, and I respect you. You're a long-time super chatter. You've been a member. You're a moderator, and I respect you, bro. Yes. Well, again, Vinicius Jr. is 23. Vinicius Jr. has only been delivering on a regular basis for the past 3 seasons. So when he was 18, 19, 20, he was a very talented player, but the delivery, the end product, was nowhere near a world-class prolific level. So do I think it's conceivable at 20 to 21 years of age that Vinicius Jr. would have missed that chance? Yes. Based on the output levels he had 3+ years ago, it's conceivable he misses it. He might score, might not. When you use Messi and Ronaldo as an example, you're talking about 2 of the greatest football players of all time. Now, I think you're going to really struggle to enjoy football if you're only going to praise players and only going to like players that are of the Messi and Ronaldo level. And if anybody falls below that, no, rubbish, not interested, don't care how young they are, don't care about their development. We can't judge everybody through the exact same lens. Some people are more talented than others. Some people develop and flourish at different stages of their careers. Doesn't mean you can't criticize the miss. But I think what happens now is writing Sesko off and going, he's never going to amount to nothing because of one bad game. And by the way, Igal is spot on. If a player does well in 2 or 3 games, everyone says, don't overpraise them. It's an international tournament. So why with a couple of bad performances are we saying write him off forever? I think you have to keep the same energy. I don't know who's created this notion of, well, players like just because some young players are delivering at a very, very young age, Rooney, Messi, etc. The vast majority don't. But it doesn't mean they don't come good later on in their careers. Because by that logic, Leicester shouldn't have ever bought Jamie Vardy. But they did, and look what they went and did. So yeah, I get where you're coming from, but I think you're creating a bar that's so high, it's unattainable for 99.9%.
Also, when you miss out on a target, you're a lot harsher on that target. So I get it if there's Chelsea and Arsenal fans in the chat going, "Oh, Sesko's trash." It's kind of copium.
I agree. This here says, I love this. It says Sesko is a bum, bro. But again, just forget Sesko. This is what I mean. Forget him. Let's all agree for a moment he is. That doesn't make the logic right. That if you're not doing what Ronaldo was doing at 21, I'm never going to rate you, or you're never going to get any better. I don't even think Messi, if you consider Messi and Ronaldo to be world-class, and that's where you've got to be world-class, then cool. Lots of today's players are not going to be world-class. In fact, we may not have another world-class attacker again because no one may ever get to that level. So it's one of these things where just let's all agree Benjamin Sesko is poor, never going to get any better. But having this logic that because you're 20 or 21 and you're not the finished article, but because another player was the finished article at 21, that means you won't get any better. It's crazy. That logic is flawed, in my opinion.
What do you guys think about Rafael Leao? I think he's been terrible this tournament.
Here's the thing. I said Arsenal shouldn't sign
And by the way, sorry, just on Vinicius Jr., I've just scrolled down his Wikipedia page. This is the man that has 5 goals in 32 Brazil caps. So I think it's very conceivable he misses that chance when you look at his current return for his national team. Yeah,
Brazilian people aren't the biggest fans of Vinicius for Brazil anyway. Here's what I'll say. I haven't changed my energy. When Terry asked me on Straight Facts, he'll vouch right now. I said Arsenal shouldn't sign Sesko. So my opinion hasn't changed on that whatsoever.
I agree.
And my logic is always the following. I don't judge a player based on international football because the current top goal scorer of Copa America, I would trade for Igal at my football club. So yeah, that's
Who is it?
You can take a wild guess, my brother.
Jonathan David.
No.
Luis Diaz.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Darwin Núñez.
Mm-hmm.
Joshua Jack here says, am I the only one that doesn't think that was a penalty?
It was a penalty. Come on.
I think, do you know what it is? I actually think it is a penalty, but they're rarely given. I mean, the ball's going to go past him. He clatters into the player. I think it was a foul. Yeah, I thought it was.
I think this is what English referees have done to us, man. They flip flop with the definition of penalty so much we don't know what is a penalty anymore.
Yeah, I mean it's just Jota moved the ball past him. He smashed into Jota's legs. It's a foul. Yeah, it's a foul for me. So yeah, I thought it was right. And because it was given in real time, VAR is not going to overturn it. You know, if there was a slight touch on the ball, maybe they would have done. But I did think it was a penalty. Austria are clear favourites. Austria and Switzerland are the two favourites to make the final from England's side of the draw. There's no doubt about it. They have both been better teams than England at this tournament.
No, but England are still the favourite because of the star power.
No, I get we'll be the favourite with the bookmakers. That's the bookmakers protecting themselves. If we're being objective about this, right now, if you had to put your hand on your heart, your life depended on it, England are playing Switzerland tomorrow. You've got to predict right, win or loss for England to save your life. What are you picking?
I'm picking England to win.
Ah, well, I'll give you credit for that. I wouldn't. I would not put my life on England winning the knock. To another fact I learned today, from 1968, so the first tournament after we won the World Cup, until 2016, it's a long time, right? What are we talking there? 40, 50 odd years, 50 odd years. Yeah, 48 years, I think it might be. England won just 6 knockout games in that entire time. 6. Since Southgate's been a manager, it's been 6 years. We've won 7 knockout games.
Impressive.
Like that is the only thing I would say that gives him a little bit more of an advantage is things like the Euros and World Cups used to be smaller. And as soon as you got out the group stages, generally you were straight up against. I mean, the World Cups used to just be the best teams. It used to just be a much smaller World Cup with the best teams. So there was very rarely were you getting Slovakias and Slovenias and Icelands, and I mean Iceland knocked us out in knockout games. You're not getting that level of team back in the day. So I suppose there's that you've got to factor in. But yeah, I couldn't believe that stat. And then I thought about it my whole life.
Can I ask you guys a question? Did you notice how many people who were hate watching Portugal today because of Cristiano Ronaldo?
Oh yeah, loads.
Crazy. When he missed the penalty, there's literally people going nuts, loving it. Messi comparisons, everything going crazy. I think the main reason why a lot of people are mentioning Sesko is not because he had that crazy miss, but because they wanted Portugal to lose so bad because of Ronaldo. That it's like when you're hate watching, you hate a player more because they've messed up. For example, when Son didn't score that chance against Man City, I hated Son more than I ever did, and I'm an Arsenal fan. But I wanted him to score it.
No, I think it's listen. Of course there is. I mean, and there's multiple reasons. Some it's because you'll get the Barca and the Liverpool and the City fans and the Arsenal fans who hate Man United and Real Madrid, and it's a connection there. Then you'll also get the Messi fans who, they won't say this publicly. There is, of course, a concern amongst Messi fans because the debate was ended after the World Cup. But if Portugal was to win this and Ronaldo was to be influential in the next 3 games and they were to go on and win it, say he scores winning goals in the next 3 matches and they win the Euros, the debate starts again. And as much as people think it's over, when someone's got 2 major, like, you know, he's got the 2 of the Euros, the debate comes back and nobody wants it to. There's a comment here that I needed to bring up before the end of the show because I've got actually now pack up a whole van for it. I've got actually packed down this set, put it into a van and drive to Germany.
You leave tomorrow?
Yeah, 5 a.m. Well, pretty much. I leave today pretty much now. It's 5 a.m. I've got to go. This is interesting. It says, what are we talking about here? International football is the measure of elite footballers. So for a gal to say don't judge players on internationals is dumb because everyone can play club football.
No, I'm simply saying don't judge them based on one tournament, because if you judge players based on one tournament, they can have a bad tournament and then go on to have a great career, and you look really silly by judging somebody based on 3 or 4 games.
I totally agree. A gal is right here. I'm not. JJ's right in the sense of course, it's a high standard of football, and if you do well at it, it's such a key component in your legacy. I agree, but El Hadj Diouf was judged off of an international tournament. Karol Proborski was judge of an international tournament. Interestingly, though, no major clubs ever really went in for closer, even though every World Cup that man delivered, because it depends on what nation you're from, depends on the quality of opponents you face. And some people just have good form and some people have bad form during those times. All we're stating is Sesko's not had a good tournament. Definitely has to work on things. But to state that because of this bad tournament, that proves and guarantees for the rest of his career, which is only just starting, he's never going to get to the elite level where he delivers in these tournaments, delivers in the Champions League, delivers goals in big games. That, for me, is too far of a stretch. You may predict that and be right, but to say it's a fact at this particular juncture is, and you haven't done that, JJ, by the way, that's exactly why I name one of my podcasts Straight Facts. Because to make a prediction and call it a fact before you know is madness. Is a madness.
You know something, Terry? I just want to say one more thing to JJ. Depending on what team he supports, there's probably a player that he's a fan of that is having a bad tournament, but he won't tell you that player is a bad player because it's only been 4 games. So that's a perfect example right there. No one's going to sit here and tell you Foden's a terrible player or this player or that player is a terrible player because of 4 games. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. James Rodriguez is an example. Yeah, I mean, some people have got comments and people get signed off international duty. Yeah, and sometimes it goes well and sometimes it doesn't. What we're saying is you cannot make maybe we phrased it wrong. You cannot make absolute statements off of an international tournament. You don't know fully. Do you think Spain will win it? I mean, they're the favorites.
We will win it.
They're the favorites right now. But do you know what? I'm just honestly, they're the favorites, but I have no idea who's going to win it still because no one's formidable, and that's what's great.
I don't think they get past Germany.
I think if they beat Germany, I mean, I predicted Portugal to win. My mind's changed almost on that now. Could change after the next round. If Spain beat Germany, I think Spain win it. I mean, obviously, if Germany win, they can't win it. That sounds stupid when I say it out loud, but what I sort of mean is Germany are the only team left in it who I think genuinely can beat the Spaniards right now. So it's because they're playing them next. There's no one of Germany's level left if they go out as well. So it becomes a lot easier for them. So that's what I meant.
I think
when I say it out loud, it can sound right.
Defensively, don't you think Germany's better than Spain? Offensively, they're both great.
No, because Switzerland even opened them up. Listen, Yamal and Nico Williams are going to feast. Watch the space, brother.
It's going to be really interesting because it's going to be the first game that both have played where they're up against teams that both are going to attack. And that's a dynamic here. It changes suddenly. And yes, Croatia are quite open, but Germany are exponentially better. So we will see. Why are there so many own goals? It's just a fluke.
More own goals than goals. Own goals is the top goal scorer of the tournament.
Yeah, it's crazy how many own goals there have been. Vinicius Jr. only had 3 goals before this Copa America. He scored 2 in one game, which put him on to 5. That's crazy numbers for someone who's
exactly why I don't rate using international football.
Yeah, if you rate Vinicius Jr. only on international football, and that's why, again, it being an absolute, you can definitely judge every player's entire career, what it has been and what it will be based on one international tournament. Yeah, you can't be doing that. There's too many.
You know what the international tournament's it's basically gonna solidify who gets the Ballon d'Or. Because if Germany get it, it's gonna be Cruz.
That's a different
if
topic.
England get it, it's gonna be Bellingham. If Vinicius wins the Copa America, does he solidify Ballon d'Or for you guys?
Yes.
I think he probably does if they're going to win it, especially the fact that this is not a very good Brazilian team. So to help to win it's crazy. Like you've literally got 3. Their midfield is made up of mid-table Premier League midfielders.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ronaldinho
went in on them.
It's crazy. Boys, look, I want to thank you both for coming onto the show with me today. Are you live after this on MHF?
No, on This Is Football, Terry. Okay, doing a transfer video, going to be talking about the Arsenal transfer targets, the United transfer targets, Chelsea signing Dewsbury Hall, so we're kind of throwing it back to the Premier League a little.
Remember, you
that
speak about
quickly,
but you have to speak about the biggest signing of the day,
which is Vivel. We are going to be talking about him.
Dan Ashworth, baby.
Oh, yeah, but we've known
I thought you were going to say the Chelsea kid.
Let's go.
I don't know much about. No, Dan Ashworth. I'm doing that. So this video is going to redirect you to This Is Football, people. So make sure you go across and support Husam over there. You may have already gone, so go and watch it. Boys, always a pleasure speaking. Everyone else, look, I'm on my way to Germany soon. The next time you see me streaming live, I'll be in the Deutschland. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. God willing, I will. And we'll see you.